Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Moto, and if you want to get yourself one of the most affordable street legal motorcycles for casual daily riding, this is one of the easiest ones to get your hands on and go out and ride, the Honda XR150L. This is a motorcycle that's been extremely popular in non-North American markets for a number of years, and so a few years ago Honda finally decided, hey, we make it down in Mexico, why not deliver it up above the border to United States of America buyers. So for about $4,000 you get yourself a 149cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine making, Honda doesn't publish exact figures, but somewhere around 14 or 15 horsepower at the crank, if I'm remembering correctly. So needless to say, not much. But you also have only about a 283-pound wet and ready-to-ride weight. You've got 2.8 gallons of maximum fuel capacity in the tank. You've got a built-in little cargo carrier right there. You've got passenger foot pegs. You've got tires that are very moderately dual sport, but definitely street friendly. And you've got everything you need to legally ride on the streets. You've got headlights, turn signals, mirrors, all of the jazz. What do you not have? Well, you don't have any ABS, you don't have any fuel injection, and you don't have any sort of electronics. This is a beautifully simple gauge cluster with just no tachometer, analog speedo, analog tach, and trip meter. Very, very straightforward for a very straightforward price. But what if you want to ride one of these daily? Well, that's what we're going to test here today. This is the Commuter fuel economy test. We're going to go over to the gas station, top this off with 87 octane, go out and do 42 miles of mixed riding, including some highway, because at 150cc, this is just barely legal to take on most United States freeways. Now, I'm not saying I would recommend that for you, but we are going to make it happen here today. I'm going to ride over in the right lane, and hey, sometimes it's nice to just at least be able to hop on the highway, get down an exit or two, because that can make a huge difference compared to taking city streets. And hey, if there's a lot of traffic or something, if you're in a city area, then why not? Why not hop on the highway? These are also a little bit of raw first impressions for me. Now, we had this bike a few years ago with the 2023 model in white. I quite enjoyed having it around, and we did one of those fuel economy tests, but that was back before, one, I had decent audio in my helmet, and two, before we did the entire ride in sort of a Commuter style. I just did a time lapse, and some of you want to actually see the ride, so that's what we're going to do here today. We're also going to be comparing it to Kawasaki's KLX 230. We're going to be doing a fun little ride with both of those and talking about the pros and cons of each. So, last week we did the XR650L, the XR150's big brother, and you all got upset with me that I didn't start the motorcycle up and warm it up first before we went riding. So we're going to do that here in a moment, but I do like to show you all the cold starts of these bikes. So, let's see if it fires up without choke. And last time you guys got all mad at me for that too. Always something with y'all. Yeah, okay. I just like to check, because sometimes in the, in the warm weather, choke on this one, hiding way down there. Let's do a half choke. Now this one I know sat at Honda HQ for a while, so again, probably got some older fuel in it. Full choke. There we are. Hesitant, but running. 89 cents of fuel. That is probably the smallest transaction I have ever conducted. But, like I said, this bike is fresh from Honda. It had fuel in it. So, it is time for us to ride. Now, a few other things to note for today. We've got the tire pressure set at their placard 22 PSI front and 22 PSI rear. Weather is just about perfect 72 degrees and sunny. And I'm going to be riding as though you were just heading into the office in the morning, taking it easy, staying within about 5 miles per hour of posted speed limits where I can. Obviously, we are running up against the maximum speeds of this bike on some of these roads, so that'll be interesting. Let's reset our very satisfying trip meter. Zero it out. Start it up. Off we go. Yeah, I can't wait to get this old fuel burned out of here. Okay. XR150L. for when you just want the easiest way to do as much riding as possible. You probably want to be able to go more comfortably at highway speeds to do as much riding as possible. But this is certainly an affordable way to do it. First of all, such a quiet little engine, especially coming off of the XR150L. I think it's just so itty. The cool thing though about getting to a lighter motorcycle weight like this is you need less of everything. You need less brake, you need less tire, and you need less go. So despite making a paltry amount of power, I'm still keeping up 50 miles per hour up this hill, no problem. And it's just so light and carefree to toss around. Your insurance is going to be low, your fuel costs are going to be low. Everything is just low and easy. Just a 5-speed gearbox in here. Very simple, very straightforward. The cockpit, if you will, though, the ergos are still very comfortable for an average sized adult such as myself. I am 5'10", 32-inch inseam, and 170 pounds. And the bike has stalled itself once again. Man. Again, I'm gonna try not to fault the bike much until we get about 10 miles or so into our ride, because I suspect that carburetor has been sitting. I really do, and 10% ethanol fuel in there, I bet, and it's just gummed things up. So I really want to wring this out some and just let it clear itself before I criticize it for stalling, because I don't remember that being too big of an issue on the last XR I had. But again, ergos. I'm sitting nice and upright. I am a little bit pushed forward compared to how I usually ride, and that's partially because this is a one-piece seat with a hump in it. A lot of times on these dual sport bikes, we get more of a flat seat that has a little, one of those little kind of handle straps, and they're flat, so you can kind of scoot back as much as you want. Well, this one, if I try scooting back further, I run into this hump. So I am sitting my butt a little bit more forward than I typically would, but my arms are still comfortably mid-stretched. No adjustability on the clutch or brake levers, but still very nice and easy to grab. It's just a quick little peek down to see my basic speedo. And you've got a turn signal indicator, a brights indicator, a neutral indicator, and that is all she wrote. Very low seat height. If I remember correctly, we're just under 31 inches, and it's a decently narrow seat as well, so most adults are going to be able to be very comfortable on this motorcycle. Now, with that limited height, you're dealing with more limited suspension travel, but for most city riding, that should be plenty fine. Still going to be a lot more than you'd get out of your average Harley. Another nice aspect of this being such a small single-cylinder engine is a lot less vibration than the larger singles. Again, this is going to turn in some ways to a little bit of a comparison with the XR150L, but it's just because that's the last bike I did this test with, and you barely feel this engine at all running up and down underneath you, whereas even the counterbalanced larger singles, you feel it thumping. But man, is that acceleration slow. This is getting down into kind of Honda Grom territory where you do have to be careful leaving red lights, because you're not always going to be able to beat the average traffic around you. In fact, I think a Grom is probably quicker than this with the kind of the tires and the motor, and I know the motor makes less power explicitly and it's smaller, but just with the gearing and the size, weight, and everything, I bet you they're very, very close. And the Grom does feel a little bit more exciting. In fact, I would love to compare this with the Grom. Problem is the Grom is still on a stop sale, and it has been for something like more than 6 months, I think. It's just because of a silly little fuel part issue from Honda. I'm sure Honda is not loving that either, because I'm sure they're sitting on so many Groms that they'd love to sell. See, I think this bike's, I think it's getting healthier and more cleared out. Carbureted bikes need to be run today. That's That's the biggest issue with carbs, is not anything to do with the carburetors themselves. It's actually the fuel that we use here in America, the ethanol-based fuel. Your average fuel at the pump has 5 to 10% ethanol in it, and that gums up when it's sat for, I think, just more than a few weeks. It starts to happen. 90 days or so, though, you're going to have a really messy carburetor. You don't have the fuel injectors to high power kick the fuel through and clean everything out. So you go to start your carbureted bike, as you kind of saw with us today, and it just simply has issues. Now, if you were to run entirely ethanol-free fuel in your carbureted machines, you have no problem. So if you do have a gas station near you that sells ethanol-free, use that for anything like your mowers or your older bikes, obviously older cars or something if they had carbs. You could use them for your normal cars too, your fuel-injected cars. You're going to get, what would it be, better fuel economy. You'll get better fuel economy out of ethanol-free fuel. But is it worth the extra cost of whatever they're charging for ethanol-free? Probably not. But maybe. Undoubtedly, XR150s are used throughout the world for lane filtering. And here in North America, that is perfectly legal to do here in California. And you can see the XR150 is fantastic for it. Between the low seat height, the lightweight, the thin bars, it's very easy to slip in and out of traffic. And again, that's where the bike gets to shine, because you're not going to make up time on the straightaways, so you might as well make up time zipping through traffic. And you got just enough gruntability there if you got the revs in the right spot to putz your way through at these lower speeds. It is a beautiful morning here on Pacific Coast Highway, but I am not thinking quite so much about the view right now, and more about, will I have the power to stay up with traffic here coming up this hill? We just had a red light, and speed limit's about 60 here, I believe. The XR150 does not love doing 60 up hills, so we're gonna stay in fourth. Oh, look at those waves. That's a nice wave right there. Gonna leave it pegged out in fourth gear. We're about 58 miles per hour. And we are slowly losing it. Come on, little bike. Stay up at 55 at least. Alright, we seem to be keeping it above 50, but gosh, yeah, I'd be getting run over if this woman were texting instead of vaping right now. But into Laguna Beach, speed limit drops down and we can chill. And that's what you're supposed to do on this bike. This isn't a high-strung motorcycle. This isn't a go out and rip me around kind of bike. This is a fun bike. This is a bike for putting on your camper or in the back of your truck, or having around property, or just having as a spare motorcycle to run around town. Yeah, you could have something like a Grom or a Monkey or the Trail 125, but this one just a little bit gutsier, a little bit simpler, and a little bit more straightforward. You got room for throw a passenger on there, go down the street, grab ice cream, go to the store, grab a case of beer, whatever you want to do. This motorcycle to me makes so much more sense than the Trail 125. The Trail 125 is a nostalgia piece. I get it. I think it's cool looking. I understand why people have an emotional attraction to it. But the XR150 makes more sense in nearly every single way. The only arguments I could see is if you really wanted someone to be able to ride it who isn't comfortable doing a full manual with the clutch. Okay, fair enough. Or you got the nostalgia play and the styling and everything, that's fair. Or you just really don't want to deal with a carburetor, and as we kind of saw from this morning, I get that too. If your bike's going to sit in the garage for months at a time and then you're just going to hop out and play around with it, yeah, the fuel injection on the Trail 125 is going to be a little easier to live with. But for most use, the XR150 makes more sense to me, and if I'm not mistaken, it's less expensive. It's also nice and quiet coming through town here. I don't feel like I'm bothering anybody. If you were putzing this around at a campsite or something, yeah, you'd have no problems running this little engine. We are idling very confidently now, so you can see sitting here at a stoplight, super quiet. I don't really, I'm not concerned about the fact that I'm running a little halfway dirt bike here in the streets of Laguna Beach. Also, again, both of my feet flat down on the ground. Super easy to rock the bike back and forth. Very casual riding experience. Good opportunity for our gear check today. I am donned in my casual ADV gear, all from Revit, outside of my helmet and the airbag vest. We've got the Ortez jeans, the off-track jacket, the boundless boots, and the dirt gloves. Very nice looking, at least I think so. Comfortable, casual riding gear here. And then I've got my Arai Contour X on my head. This would be a good opportunity to have the Arai XD5 adventure helmet. We should probably try to get that at some point here, doing all these dual sports. But I've got my Contour X, good street riding helmet. In fact, I like that I have the bright or yellow colorway on this one because it helps people see me when I'm riding these little tiny motorcycles on city streets like this. And then if someone doesn't see me and runs into me, I have the Helite double turtle airbag vest on, which means I've got coverage both the front and the back, plus all the airbag coverage that we know and love from Helite. Check the link below if you want to get yourself any of that gear. And that's how I ride. If you're gonna save money on a motorcycle like this, why don't you spend a little extra money on your gear? Coming through these little city streets again is when the XR150, it's just so nice and easy. This person seems to be stopping for no reason, so we will go around them. Oh. Clutch is not quite as light as it would be on one of those smaller engine bikes with a slipper and assist clutch, but still quite light, especially for a more rudimentary dual sport like this. And of course, enough suspension to take up all these heaves and bumps. Great little city bike. Someone's making some delicious smelling food back there, my goodness. I wish I could stop. Of course I can't for science. 3rd Street Hill. I think we're in 2nd gear, but no way of knowing without a gear indicator. Just enough power to accelerate our way up. Coming up to the spirited riding section. Now, typically on these tests, this is our one opportunity to uncork the bike, go full throttle, and feel what it's like to ride spiritedly in case you had a section of your commute where you wish to do so. But on the XR150L, pretty much all riding is full throttle and spirited, so won't really be any different than what we've been doing throughout the ride. But either way, let's let this Mazda 3 get a little room in front of us, and then we'll let it loose. All 149 cc's of fury. It's the corners. The corners is where we'll get them, right? That's what they say. Probably should have let even more room because we are catching that Mazda. Oh man, they're going so slow. They can't handle the XR150. XR150 can't handle the hill either. We're gonna have to downshift. There we go, there's some Excel. Plenty of peg room. We're laying this little thing over. Yeah. Now, admittedly, if you had a bunch of weight on the back, passenger or something, you might be struggling to get up this hill. But we are doing just fine, about 35. Yeah. Zipping and zooming, no problem. So typically this is where I take a break from filming for a little bit as we come back down from top of the world here. But I do need to mention one thing before we end. Something doesn't feel good in the clutch. When I'm releasing the clutch out of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I'm getting a disconcerting chunk sound. So I'm going to do a quick pull off right here where it's decently flat. We're going to shut off the engine. I'm just going to observe our oil level here. Just make sure we're okay. I'll let it settle for about 30 seconds and then pop it off. Like I said, I just want to make sure we have a good amount of oil. I don't know what's going on here. Well, I see oil on there, so, it's better than nothing, right? All right, well, I don't know how much more I can do right now, so we're just going to continue on and hope that nothing bad is happening. Yeah, right there. I don't know if you all could hear that, but not good. I just now remembered that I don't have a license plate on this motorcycle. This is a media bike from Honda, and I was supposed to move the manufacturer plate from the XR150 over to the 150 when I was going to ride this one, and I was going to do that today before filming, and then thought to myself, oh, well, I'll warm the bike up first, shoot the intro, and swap the plates, and promptly forgot. So, let that be a reminder to you all that, as my father used to say, if you think of something that you need to do, just do it. Don't put it off, because you'll forget. And then also, fingers crossed that no police officers decide to follow me for the rest of this test. Would be unfortunate, especially because I don't even think I have a loan agreement for this bike. I'm pretty sure this is just kind of riding dirty, and they would just have to trust from me, oh yeah, officer, I'm definitely supposed to have this motorcycle from Honda. It's going to be really, really awkward if the transmission goes out too and I'm stuck somewhere. The life of a moto vlogger, moto reviewer is not always easy. You guys might think it is, cruising up and down the coast here on these bikes, but there's pitfalls to be had. Coming into the end of the city portion here on the XR150L. Great little bike for running around the city. As long as you got a clear carb, just kind of come to an idle here, no problem, and do your thing. Low seat height, good suspension for this sort of stuff, good visibility. Maybe not quite as good as you get on a taller dual sport, but still better than a lot of smaller bikes. Now this is a section where it's going to have to work a little bit more. We're going to pretty much be pegged all the way through the suburban section, and then of course coming up to the freeway, we're gonna, we're just gonna hop behind some traffic and see what we're able to do. We're doing a little better running at these suburban speeds than I thought we were going to. I think the bike is running better now than it was at the beginning of the test. Again, I think carb needed to be cleaned out a little bit. Now we're putzing along pretty confidently in 5th gear. Keeping up with traffic at 50, no problem. 55 starts to get a little bit tough, especially if we have some hill or some headwind. But again, yeah, no problem up here. Drafting makes a big difference on this motorcycle, and we're going to see that here on the highway, that if you can just tuck in behind a truck or something like that, you should be able to cruise 60, maybe even 65 flat ground without much difficulty. It's if you get caught alone leading a pack or something like that, that's when you have trouble. Now, obviously, I would not purchase an XR150L for regular highway duty, but like I said, sometimes you live in a more urban area where highway speed limits aren't really any higher than 55 miles per hour. Plus, you might live in an area where being able to just hop on one highway exit, hop off the next one or two, that might save you 10 or 15 minutes as opposed to screwing around with city streets. So, it's part of our test. We're going to do it, gosh darn it. Right up at the top of 4th. Come on, baby. There's our shift. Look at that, we're accelerating. We're gonna stay right behind this F-150 for now. Look at that, I'm cruising right now. Can even let off the throttle a little bit. Cruising just above 60 indicated. Now I don't know what that is GPS. Typically bikes read a few miles per hour high. But either way, I'm on the highway here. I'm on the 5 freeway in Southern California on an XR150L, and I'm doing fine. I've been on dual sports just about this light before. I'm not really worried about getting blown around. Like I said, the only issue is if this F-150 decides to go somewhere else or speed up a bunch, and then I'm caught on my own. Let's kind of see what that would look like here. I'll go into this right lane. We're doing about 64. Now I've got nobody in front of me. Look at this, I'm still accelerating. Not bad, little Honda, not bad. Now again, I don't love not having overhead here, because say for example, you know, I got this car getting ready to merge in front of me. I'm not really able to safely speed up and kind of merge if I needed to. So, you know, it's not something I'd like to be doing all the time, but it can do it. That's the main thing. Not to mention this little single is singing, but vibrations are minimal. Don't have to worry about that. Oh, we're actually running into some traffic here, surprisingly, for a Tuesday morning. So, again, gonna get to benefit from the XR150's svelteness. I will say, when it's very loud around you on the XR150L, you do have to pay a good bit of attention to your RPMs, because there's no tachometer, and because the motor is so small and it's so quiet, when there's loud cars or bikes around you or you're doing higher speeds, it's hard to tell where you're at in the rev range, and you don't have any sort of gear indicator either, so all of a sudden you need power and you're way up in 5th gear at 30 miles per hour and you don't have any. So just you know, it's a bike that requires a little bit more involvement. Nothing wrong with that. Again, hopefully we don't pass any officers of the law here, because we are running sans license plate. This guy has 2 license plates. He's got one for America and one for Mexico. I wonder if he'd be willing to offer me one. Is that legal to just have 2 plates like that? I don't know. Who am I to judge? Now, it's uncommon for there to be traffic like this at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. So I'm kind of happy that I'm on the XR150 as opposed to any other motorcycle, because any other bike, this would be virtually invalidating our test, because we try to run 70 miles per hour through this portion. But the XR150 wasn't going to be able to do 70 miles per hour, so it's kind of not as big of a deal. So can the XR150L do highway? Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want to be around Dallas in the middle of the morning when everybody's doing super high speeds and, you know, you're trying to keep up with high wind or something like that. And I wouldn't want to be up in Denver either, trying to do 70 miles per hour at elevation. But you're just running around and you just need to get one place to another very quick and easy on the highway, and you can draft a little bit. You don't got to worry about too many hills. You're fine. You're fine. Some people like to go, oh, you can get run over. Not if you just stay in the right lanes. Like semi-trucks that stay 55 or 60 miles per hour on most highways. Just get in around one of them. You'll be fine. So, wrapping up the test here on the XR150L. It's a good little city bike, you know. It's you can do most of your riding with it. It's not fast. It's just casual, easy, lightweight, fun in a lot of senses, and you can toss it through the dirt if you want to, which is definitely something we're going to be doing for the full review. Now, compared to spending some more money and getting a motorcycle that's just a little bit more powerful, you are leaving a good bit on the table. Just being able to have a little bit more grunt for both a safety and an excitement perspective, and just general rideability, makes a pretty big deal. So if you're just using this for kind of an around town bike, you don't live by any highways, taking it camping or something like that, yeah, sure, I like it for that. But this is the DM Commuter fuel economy test. We're talking about what would this bike be like to ride daily from a commuting standpoint. You're going to be a little bit more limited just in the ability to do higher speeds and the ability to keep fuel in there. But I guess if you're commuting, then having you should be running it regularly, and gumming up the carb shouldn't be much of an issue, right? So let's top it off here, crunch our final numbers. Also, this is a bit annoying. No place to put the fuel cap while you're filling it. Will this be the most fuel efficient bike we've tested on the DM Commuter fuel economy test? Initial impressions are looking like Yes, with an asterisk, because we obviously averaged a bit of a lower speed on that highway section. But at only 0.567 gallons going back in, this is going to be a pretty good figure. 42.9 miles traveled according to our GPS, divided by that 0.567 gallons is giving you an impressive 76 miles per gallon here on the Honda XR150L for the DM Commuter fuel economy test. Again, little motor, not too knobby tires, small frame, so not pushing too much air, and a little bit lower speeds, obviously, resulting in pretty darn good fuel economy numbers. We take that 76 miles per gallon times the healthy 2.8 gallon fuel tanks, giving you a very usable 210 miles of real world range here in the XR150. Now, you don't have a fuel gauge on here, so you're going to have to know how much gas is in your tank. You can either pop it open, take a look, or just reset your trip meter every time, which we are going to do right now. Gosh, is that satisfying. So much better than a button. So, again, if you want a very easy and straightforward way to save money on your commute, get yourself an XR150L. You can ride it in all sorts of weather. You can ride it in all sorts of environments and situations. You can throw a passenger on the back if you need. You can throw bags on here pretty darn easily. I love that they include this rack straightforward. You can maybe do a little bit of a tank bag even, one that you might just have to move in order to put fuel into it. So for some people, this is going to make a great argument to run down to your local Honda dealer, pay whatever they want for it, go out and save yourself money and have a fun time while doing your commuting to class or work or anything like that. But if you do need to do a good bit of highway, if you do want a little bit more excitement, I would say if this is your only bike, I would consider just spending a little bit more, getting yourself a little bit more displacement. You're going to open yourself to so many more opportunities. But if you do want to see more on the XR150L, stay tuned for our full review and our comparison with the KLX 230, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from DM Moto, and as always, ride on.